Hello, my name is Mark Alpert, and I am a financial counselor at New York Legal Assistance Group. I'm also a certified financial planner. NILAG financial counselors are available to help you through this financial crisis. We provide one-on-one confidential financial counseling over the phone right now to help you through this difficult period. Please contact the social worker or organizer who sent you this webinar if you would like us to give you a call. They will send us a referral and we'll call you. NILAG is a leading nonprofit civil, legal services, and financial counseling organization that helps low-income New Yorkers throughout the greater New York City area and surrounding counties. This presentation is strictly financial. It is not intended as official legal or tax advice. Also, please keep in mind that the federal and state and local governments are introducing new policies and rules as well as consumer programs at a rapid pace. So you can try to keep up with the changes as well by going to our resource slide, which will be at the end. If you would like a copy of the slides, we can send them to you as well via email if you contact the social worker or organizer. Here is a quick agenda of what we'll be discussing, and I hope this will only take about 15 minutes. Budgeting. Budgeting is the key. Budgeting is the beginning of any financial planning process. It is important in all environments. It is critical when you're facing times of economic uncertainty. The budget will list your income sources as well as your expenses. Budgets are typically made on a monthly basis because that's when your major bills are due. So if your income comes, let's say 2 times a week, you need to adjust that to a monthly basis. That is, multiply by 26 and divide by 12. Same thing with some bills, like a car insurance bill typically is 3 to 6 months. So if it's $300 over 3 months, that's $100 a month. As you write down these expenses, and I'm going to go through a couple formats which you could use in a minute, but as you write down these expenses, it's also essential to identify between, essential expenses and discretionary expenses. Essential expenses are those which you need to live every day: housing, utilities, health, and food. These are critical expenses. They come first. They can usually not be cut easily or quickly. Discretionary expenses can be postponed or cut, such as clothes purchases. Yes, some are essential, but they can be postponed. Some things can be cut, such as cable. Many of us have cable packages that not only include internet, which clearly is important, but might include 500 channels as well as HBO and Showtime. And there are 8 ways to reduce these bills. So as you write down the list, think of ways to save money as well. And I suggest that you track your expenses every few days, because sometimes just going through our checkbook doesn't pick up all the expenses. There are a lot of money we take out of the ATM and then spend. So it's important that you and your family also get involved. The whole family has to watch where the money is going as well. You can do this in many ways. One, you can just take a piece of paper and just make it nice and neat, but list the categories, income on top, and then list the expenses by category. Your housing would include the mortgage or the rent, maintenance, utilities, cell phones, things like that. Under transportation, we would have car expense, including auto insurance and fuel, Metro card, rail costs. Health, groceries would include, for example, supplies and eating out, which none of us are probably doing right now. You could also, I prefer an Excel spreadsheet, which I'll show you in a second, which is available for free at this website, or which I can send you by email. And there are online apps such as Mint.com, but frankly, I prefer using a piece of paper because that makes you actually input numbers, write down numbers, think of numbers, and at the same time, you begin to, think in your head whether it's essential, discretionary, or there are ways to save money. So this is the example of that Excel spreadsheet that I mentioned before. Nice and neat. You can relabel things. It calculates things for you. You can add lines. You can change labels. You could also save not only for March, but April, May, June, July going forward, so we can begin to really refine and get a real nice budget. This should only take about 15 minutes. And no, budgeting is not the most exciting thing in the world. Sometimes the numbers are not pleasant to look at, but virtually, it's number one, we do it with all our clients in good times and bad. And number two, even in bad times, it gives clients more confidence on where their money is going and what they might be able to do to reduce expenses. Another goal of the budget, of course, is to prioritize which bills and debt come first. In general, secured loans are priority. Secured loans are loans where the lender has some access to your collateral. So, for example, the mortgage. The bank actually holds the mortgage on your house, and if you cannot make your mortgage payments, the bank can begin foreclosure proceedings. If you cannot pay your car loan or lease, eventually the lender can move to repossess those cars. Well, rent is not a debt obligation in the traditional sense of the word. It is a legal obligation that has severe consequences if you cannot make the payment. So when we think of the prioritization of bills and debts, think about the risk to you of missing a payment or a delinquency. Is the risk simply a lower credit score, or is the risk actually perhaps the loss of an asset or potential loss of an asset, such as your home or your car, or could you have your utilities shut off, for example? Again, you have very little control over your income in the short term, so all we can do is begin to try to think of ways to save money and how we should allocate the money that we have. Utilities, of course, if you cannot make payments over a period of time, eventually the utility will give you notice and shut off the utility. Many have payment plans right now, and as I will discuss, actually they are postponing cutoffs by executive order. Student loans, federal student loans, as well as past due taxes generally have priority because the government has very, very strong collection powers. They can administratively withhold tax refunds, which is very important right now. They can garnish wages. All they have to do is send you a letter notifying you. Fortunately, the federal student loans have received some relief, which I'll discuss in a second, but otherwise they would typically have some priority. And down on the list is credit cards. I know this is a difficult decision for many people to make. I often get the comment, well, I got to protect my credit rating, or I need to use my cards every month, or I can't buy food. But generally, credit cards have a lower degree of consequential risk, particularly in priorities of crisis. You could try to make the minimum payment to preserve your credit score, but if not, if you can't make your mortgage payment, you should not be making your credit card payment. You can always call the bank, ask about hardship programs right now, but the bank does not have the right to, let's say, foreclose on your home or to repossess your car. Worst case, a couple times a year, yes, they could try to sue you and gain recourse under those circumstances, but that's a ways out, and there will be opportunities to settle with the bank and avoid that from happening down the road. Now moving specifically to COVID-19 issues. First of all, tax date has been postponed. It is now July 15th, 2020 for the filing as well as payments without interest and penalty. It was typically April 15th, so that has been delayed. That does not apply to all business-related taxes, but for personal taxes, it's now July 15th. New York State, same thing. They follow the federal guidelines. If you expect a refund, of course, you would want to file as soon as possible. And another benefit is that the IRS will allow you to contribute to an IRA, Roth IRA, health savings account as well until July 15th, 2020. And this would be a way to reduce your taxable income and potential tax bill for 2019. New York State has made some policy decisions as well, at least some of which are adopted, some of which were proposed. One proposal would be paid sick leave required by virtually all employers. Another would be job protection, that if you are on sick leave due to the virus, you would be able to go back to your position prior to the sick leave without consequences. Right now, there's a proposal and waiting for Albany to take action. New York State has eased up a bit on the unemployment requirements. You can now apply immediately once laid off without the 7-day waiting period. The benefits themselves remain at 26 weeks. However, the federal government just today has passed a bill that includes an extension of up to 13 additional weeks for 39 weeks. And we would expect that New York City would fall in line with that as soon as possible. So a 4-month extension. And if there are changes, it'll automatically be applied if you're receiving unemployment now. If you need to apply for unemployment, you can either go to the website or make a phone call, website being labor.newyork.gov. And you may have to try a while because I understand there's a bit of a deluge right now. Moving on to rent and mortgage payments. This is a little less clear, a few more issues surrounding this. Evictions and foreclosures have been suspended. Now let's talk about rent first. Your rent is still due regardless of the virus, and also New York City and New York State have at least suspended for a while all eviction actions. So your payment is still due. You're still going to owe the money. If you can't make the payment, you should call the landlord immediately because you owe the money, and the money will accrue possibly with some type of fee. It is not being forgiven. Just because evictions are suspended does not mean the rent payment is being suspended. So if you cannot make a payment, let's say it's $3,000 a month, the landlord cannot evict you, but eventually you're going to have to, if it's 3 months, you're going to have to make up $9,000. So you should continue to try to pay if you can. You should call the landlord if you cannot. Explain the situation. Many are offering some type of understanding hardship plan, maybe a partial payment, or maybe an idea that if you are in arrears, you can pay it off for a certain period of time. But you don't want to be surprised with a large bill all of a sudden when, and then begin to see that you face eviction after this crisis ends. Similarly with mortgage payments are still due regardless of COVID-19. However, President Trump has ordered a halt to all foreclosures and evictions for 60 days, which is roughly May 17th. But that only applies if your mortgage is held by a government agency, HUD, Fannie Mae, or Freddie Mac. Also, Fannie and Freddie Mac borrowers can ask for up to 12 months relief on principal. So foreclosure actions is halted. If you cannot make the payment, still call your servicer. If it's owned by a government agency, you may not have to make a payment for up to 12 months. It will not be reported on your credit report, but once again, it is not clear how the arrears will be handled. So let's say the 12-month period ends, suspension is lifted, and you didn't make 12 months of $5,000 payments. You now owe $60,000. Will you have to pay that back over 1 year, 2 years? Might it be added to the principal? None of those questions have been answered. So better to make your payments if you can. But if you can't, call your servicer, and take some comfort that under some circumstances all foreclosures have been halted. This would not include any private mortgage loan. That you only can contact your servicer and ask for a hardship program, but many are making those programs available under these circumstances. If you want to see if your mortgage is held by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, you can go to those websites. They're on our resource page. They have a lookup tab, and you'll be able to see who holds your mortgage. Otherwise, simply call the servicer. As I said, the rent and the mortgage payments are due. No one's paying it for you. There's no government bailout for that. So you need to talk to the landlord, mortgage servicer, explain the situation. However, in some cases, it may be that economic circumstances have changed, and nobody will know how long this crisis will last. Some employers may not come back as quickly as others. So be realistic on the affordability of the apartment and the home. This is not a decision that needs to be taken now. I just want it in your back of your mind. But then also housing takes priority over credit card payments. Utility shutoffs have been suspended. Governor Cuomo has issued an executive order directing the New York State Department of Public Service to suspend all utility shutoffs during this crisis. Utilities must offer a hardship program. Again, there is no details on how arrears will be handled. So if your electricity bill is $100 a month and you don't pay for 3 months, the service won't be shut off, but you will owe $300, and nobody is really giving us explanation on how that $300 will be paid. Might be, $30 a month until it's paid. In addition to the 100, might it be, over 2 years or whatever. So if you can make the payments, you should. But on the other hand, rest comfortably that your utilities will not be cut off. There is real relief being offered by the federal government on student loans by executive order of President Trump. This affects most federal student loans that are held by the Department of Education. And not all loans are held by the Department of Education. Not even the government loans are always held by the Department of Education. So first of all, you need to find out where your loan is held. You can do that by calling your servicer or going to studentaid.gov/login. The number and the website are below, and you can look up who, or you can simply call the servicer and ask. But if it is held by the Department of Education, your interest will automatically be waived. You don't have to do anything. But you also, upon request, so you do have to make that call if you want forbearance, i.e. not making principal payments for up to 60 days without affecting your credit score. Again, principal is not forgiven, but in this case, I believe it will be added to the balance of the loan and paid over time. Now, once you do that, as we emerge from the crisis, you may want to consider an income-based repayment plan. Most people are on the standard 10-year repayment plan. Nothing wrong with that. You get the loan paid off over 10 years. But if your income has been reduced, an income-based repayment plan might reduce the required payment to a relatively small and affordable amount. You may never get the loan paid off, but it may help your cash flow on a monthly basis. Once again, private loans are not included, nor are federal loans not held by the Department of Education. But you can always call the servicer and ask for help. As far as New York City benefits go, state and local benefits, that would be primarily cash assistance and food stamps. You can, there have been some easing of regulations. You can apply over the phone. You don't have to do it by appointment or apply online. There have been some relaxation of work requirements. So take a look at that website, newyorkcity.gov/access HRA to take a look at what benefits you might be eligible for in a period of income disruption. And lastly, the Senate today passed a stimulus package, which would be expected to be passed by Congress as well and signed by President Trump shortly. As far as individuals go, the most important part is an immediate $1,200 of direct cash sent to workers equally, with phase out starting at $75,000 of income and eliminated at $99,000. So it's really for households in the less than $75,000 level, plus $500 for children. It'll be done automatically. Also, very importantly, is unemployment benefits could be extended by 13 weeks with 4 months of enhanced benefits, i.e. higher than the maximum that is currently being paid by New York State. We would expect New York State to move to extend their benefits, but that they have to take action. And this is just this today, so details are pending, and you can go to some of these websites will help you keep up. The NILAG website, state, federal, and city websites, the IRS, student loans, studentaid.gov, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, lots of good information if you if you need debt management help, and then the Fannie and Freddie Mac websites. So to conclude, I thank you again. All NILAG financial counselors are available for consultation, free, confidential. Just ask your social worker or presentation organizer that tell them that you want the referral, and NILAG will make a call. Thank you.